with occupation. Okay? And this is, besides other things, it has given complete implementation control for all policy in the hands of the Malay elite. Yeah, says that clearly. Award of government projects. This is very tightly controlled. All government projects tightly controlled. Of course, you know, there's always some kind of partnership, because that's the reality. Without the partnership, this country does not exist. But the awards do not get to the non-Malay, non-Bumiputra companies and individuals. Clearly, slant of state policy. Development programs of all sorts, clearly. And this is part of the patronage system of UMNO, right? So they give out these to their Malay cronies, supporters, what have you, within UMNO, right? And clear slant, racist slant, that excludes all the rest. Land development programs, various, right? Afterwards, I'll talk a little bit about this in relation to how it has impacted the Indians, in the Indian poor. And then, you know, there's another very interesting facet of institutional racism in Malaysia, and that is, you know, it is very craftily designed, and there is design, you know, I mean, it's not something that just grew up. You know, craftily designed, interwoven sets of practices between various arms of the government and linked organizations. Okay? Employment in the public sector. See, let me just point out something here. It says 77% of 3/4 are Malays and a quarter are non-Malays, but a large part of the quarter of the non-Malays are teachers. Take them away and the number is something else that you get. Right? So effectively, you don't see, like, out of every 4, 1 non-Malay. You don't see that. Okay? This is a, you know, these are all to establish just that institutional racism does exist, so that there's no more argument on that. And then we are categorized into, I think, the 4 categories. Though I think there has been an attempt lately to even increase the number of categories there. And then almost at every turn, when you step up to a government counter, you have to say bangsa, agama, and all these things. I wonder what the relevance of all of that is really when we look at things in absolute terms. And then the 2 education systems that I talked about, very clearly, you can see, right? This is, you know, what is available. I'm not saying all Malays and Muslims get it, but this is what is available, right? And excluded from this are the non-Muslims, the non-Malays. Okay? And by the way, let me say, even as I talk about, this is the difficulty that we have articulating this whole issue, because I am not anti-Malay, I am not anti-Muslim, I am for the people of this country, but I have to speak of things in as accurate a manner as possible, and sometimes it comes out as if I may be, you know, sounding anti-Muslim or anti-Malay. I am not. I am a very secular person. I believe in the power of the people. Okay, and look, this is another thing that came out recently. This is the 20 public universities that we have. We have a total of 453,000 students there, and the number of, you know, Chinese students and the number of Indian students. I just talk about these 2 minorities because basically that's what, you know, that's what we have here. And when you look at it, right, I mean, this is something we experience all the time. Just occasionally we get some statistics from the government and then it just basically confirms what we already know. But these statistics are hard to come by, let me tell you that. It's always, in the secrets, official secrets. We cannot, get reliable, even though all data is picked up on the basis of race. But reports coming out seldom in areas like this come out to show what is the distribution, because that's the way you perpetuate the system. Denial of opportunities in all these areas. Clearly, I don't need to go into all of them. I don't need to go into any of them, in fact. We experience it all the time. We experience it all the time. And then treatment by the media. Now here, the way the mainstream media works, it slants according to the race that particular paper addresses. The Chinese, there's a Chinese slant. Malays, there's a Malay slant. To the Indians, there's a Tamil slant, right? And the slant is always for the purpose of deception, to create a perception, as the elite want the people to believe, right? So the media plays a treacherous role, hand in glove, to perpetuate this, and they are part of the institutionalization of racism in this country. And on top of that, the politicians and the media together, they play on the insecurities of all of us. They play on the insecurities of the Malay people. They play on the insecurities of the Chinese people. They play on the insecurities of the Indian people, right? And the result is, we get into some kind of deep freeze, just not able to move, either because of the perceptions we have in our head or for the fear that we have in our hearts. And then, people say, you say racism, South Africa also had, similar regime. I'll tell you, the South African regime was far more brutal, when you really, look into what they did during their heydays, right? But there are so many aspects that are similar. There's so many aspects, right? It's there. They had the Population Registration Act, they had the Group Areas Act, they had the Prohibition of Mixed Marriages Act, they had several acts. We have Internal Security Act, Official Secrets Act, Printing and Public Presses Act. We have our own set. Now they're getting smarter, right? They're giving these new acts euphemistic names. They call it Freedom of Assembly Bill when they actually are going to press you even down harder, but they call it Freedom of Assembly Bill, right? What used to be called, the Police Act, I think it was called. Now it's called the Freedom of Assembly Bill. Okay. They had a definition, they categorized their people, whites, colored, black, and another category. There were 4 categories altogether in South Africa. And they had a definition for who is white, they had a definition for who's colored. Here we have a definition for who is Malay, who is Bumiputra, and who is non-Malay, who is non-Bumiputra. You see, there are many similarities. So there's no more doubt about the existence of institutional racism in our country. In summary, UMNO, along with its cohorts, cronies, mandors we call them, right? NCA, MIC, Gerakan, PPP, what have you, right? Together for 54 years they've been ruling this country, right? Established the NAP and changed the employment structure within public services, gained decision-making control, okay? And if there was any dissent, 1987 we had Operation Lalang, and I think Dr. Kwok Kasong was one of those in that soup, who was any dissent was put down with brute force. And in the period, Islamism has increased its its encroachment because of the politics of the country. And and we begin to feel further squeeze as minorities, okay? And racism becomes completely entrenched, accelerated by you know, all of this accelerated in the 80s by Dr. Mahathir. Okay, there was already, you know, the tendency was there. He came in and he just, you know, poured cement and concrete, and, you know, he just left now with a serious problem in the country. Okay, my second postulate, yeah, that all of this derives from Article 153. Now, there are some key points I'm going to be making. You know, just recently, Mr. Waytha Moorthy and myself, we were talking about, you know, some very fine but significant points that are coming up. And I think this one, you know, offers opportunity for further exploration. Initially, the Malaysian